speed limit of 25 kilometers an hour for bicycles as well as other active mobility devices on shared paths is based on normal cycling speed and takes into account the rules of shared use and the safety of all users. Cyclists should slow down and give way to pedestrians, especially when approaching crowded places. LTA will continue to ensure path safety and conduct education campaigns and community engagement programs regularly to promote gracious path sharing and safe behavior.
Ms. Goh.
Speaker, I have two supplementary questions for MOS. To put things into perspective, 25 kilometers per hour would be about 7 meters per second and about 14 to 15 seconds for every 100 meters. That's roughly the speed of a very fit and casual jogger, somewhat like, Mr. Speaker, you're running at full throttle. So imagine that, Mr. Speaker, the momentum on a bicycle. And this is what pedestrians, especially the elderly, staying in Mountbatten and perhaps in other areas of Singapore, are facing right now. So in light of this, I will ask this question. Would MOS not consider bicycle at that speed on a path shared by elderly and young children and adults, walking their pets to be reckless as well? Should we not consider lowering the speed as a deterrent measure as opposed to enforcement and education, especially when a lower speed limit will improve reaction time and safety? Thank you.
MOS Baey, he's a faster runner.
Thank you, Speaker, but even that I don't run at 25 kilometers an hour. I just want to, I thank Ms. Goh for her concern for more vulnerable users on our paths, but I'd like to explain that this speed limit of 25 kilometers an hour was derived at by the Active Mobility Advisory Panel after extensive consultations with different users of our paths. So the 25 kilometers an hour is for shared paths, which tend to be wider and allows for pedestrians or slow-moving users to keep to one side, it means to the left of the path, to allow for faster-moving device users to overtake them. So if the users adhere to this code of conduct, we do allow the different users traveling at different speeds to coexist harmoniously and safely. In areas where the paths are narrower, those what we call footpaths, the speed limit has been lowered to 10 kilometers an hour. And on these paths, devices which are motorized cannot be used. That means only manual bicycles could be used, as well as for users of personal mobility aids. That means these are for people with mobility issues. We will continue to observe and monitor the situation, and when necessary, we could look at revising the rules on the speeds. Thank you.
Mr. Dennis Tan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do agree with the views expressed by the Honourable Ms. Goh. I'm respectfully of the view that I think 25 kilometers per hour, aside from those on road bikes, would be more appropriate for speed, bicycle speed on the road rather than on the shared path. I think most bicycles other than road bikes do not travel as much as that speed on shared paths or even on the roads. And I have a separate SQ. Mr. Speaker, since 2017, when the Active Mobility Act was passed, I have said repeatedly in this House that to promote a safe and considerate riding culture, we need to have regular enforcement and adequate public education for all users, including cyclists. So recently, MOS mentioned that riders could, where necessary, overtake pedestrian on a shared lane by riding into the pedestrian-only lanes. If I hear you correctly from the last sitting, I'm concerned that this may be dangerous, especially riding at higher speed of, say, 20 to 25 kilometers per hour. So may I ask the MOS, how extensive are the current public education efforts being carried on the ground, i.e. on the shared paths, especially the popular shared path, to regulate use of all users of shared path, including advising them to lower their speed? And can these ground outreach efforts be further enhanced? Thank you.
MOSB.
LT has rolled out public education campaign since 2016. And look at community groups, schools, and this is important because we want users to develop good habits from young. So yes, we will continue to reach out to as many groups as possible and targeting at also areas where there have been a lot of feedback on frequent or more observed higher speeds of cycling in those areas. We will work with grassroots, with resident groups, communities to do the outreach. I just also like to emphasize that the speed limit is the maximum speed allowed. It is not the speed at which device users, cyclists, should expect to sustain for any distances. So when the path is crowded, there are obstacles in front, a slower moving device or user in front, they should slow down and give way to them. Right? That is the expectation. All right? And if there are cases where riders or cyclists were reckless, they will be taken to task. I'll just make a clarification to Mr. Dennis Tan's SQ. When I said earlier, previous sitting about allowing device users to overtake, these are for cases where there's a pedestrian-only path beside a cycling path. Okay, there is no POP beside a shared path. Just want to explain the difference in the way we design our infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, last SQ, Mr. Cai Yinzhou.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for the clarification. I'd like to inquire on how, with footpaths being narrow, cyclists may be elderly themselves, and navigating these obstacles like running children or dog walkers may be challenging for them as well. So cyclist speed may not be the only factor of danger, but also the ability of these cyclists to navigate these obstacles. So my supplementary question is whether the ministry will consider cycling pathways to be designed to coexist on the road, especially in areas with high density of pedestrians or vulnerable individuals like schools or silver zones. Thank you.
MOSB.
Due to the space constraints, especially on road infrastructure, we do not build cycling paths on roads. But having said that, cyclists and device users can use the roads, can ride on the roads. This is allowed. And so our approach has been building cycling infrastructure off roads. So as I said earlier, where it's possible, we will separate with cycling path and POPs. When the space is more limited, there will be shared path. And when it's even more limited, it will be just footpath. And on footpaths, there are restrictions on what kind of devices could be used on those. So in order to allow for different users of our spaces to coexist safely and harmoniously, we really need to build a culture of sharing, of gracious use of these spaces, and for everybody to understand the rules and abide by the rules. And of course, at the same time, we will carry out enforcement and take errant users to task for unsafe behavior.